The Zephyrian war fleet emerged from hyperspace like death incarnate, their sleek vessels cutting through the void with predatory grace. Admiral Keth'var surveyed the human cargo vessel hanging motionless in space, its hull scarred and patched, a testament to countless journeys through the unforgiving depths of space. Target acquired. His tactical officer hissed through mandibles that clicked with anticipation. Single human vessel. Designation: Dauntless. No escort. No backup. Keth'var's 4 eyes gleamed with satisfaction. In the 3 cycles since the Zephyrian Empire had encountered humanity, they had learned to view these pink-skinned bipeds as easy prey. Humans were slow, weak, and their technology laughably primitive compared to Zephyrian plasma cannons and quantum shields. Energy signatures? Keth'var inquired, more out of protocol than concern. Minimal, Admiral. Basic fusion drive, primitive communications array. Their weapons are antique projectile systems, kinetic energy weapons. The tactical officer's mandibles clicked in what passed for Zephyrian laughter. They still use explosives, Admiral. The bridge crew chittered with amusement. Explosives? How quaint. How utterly backward. Hail them, Keth'var commanded. Let them know their cargo now belongs to the Empire. On the main screen, a human face appeared, weathered, middle-aged, with graying hair and eyes that held more steel than the ship's hull. Captain Sarah Chen of the Dauntless looked remarkably calm for someone facing a war fleet of superior aliens. This is Admiral Keth'var of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy. You will prepare to be boarded. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Captain Chen's lips curved into what might have been a smile. Admiral, I'm Captain Chen. I have to ask, how many ships did you bring? The question caught Keth'var off guard. 12 battle cruisers. More than sufficient to deal with one aging cargo hauler. 12, Chen repeated, nodding slowly. Well, Admiral, I have some advice for you. You are hardly in a position to give advice, human. Chen's smile widened. You should have brought more ships. The transmission cut. Keth'var stared at the blank screen, his mandibles twitching with irritation. The human's confidence was either stupidity or madness. No matter, it would make their defeat all the more satisfying. Begin the attack. Disable their engines first. I want them alive to witness their cargo being transferred. 12 Zephyrian battlecruisers moved into attack formation, their plasma weapons charging with ominous energy. They had done this dozens of times before. Human resistance was always brief and futile. But as they closed distance, something nagged at Admiral Keth'var. The human captain's confidence wasn't the bravado of someone making a last stand. It was the calm assurance of someone who knew something he didn't. The Dauntless hung in space, making no attempt to flee, its weapons powered down. To all appearances, it was exactly what it seemed, a tired old cargo hauler waiting for the inevitable. Admiral Keth'var was about to discover that appearances could be very, very deceiving. Fire! Admiral Keth'var commanded. The lead Zephyrian cruiser unleashed a controlled plasma burst aimed at the Dauntless engine section. The brilliant emerald beam lanced through space, striking the human ship's rear quarter with surgical precision, and passed right through it. What? Keth'var's mandibles spread wide in shock. Report. Admiral, the beam. It's passing through their hull. No impact. No damage detected. Before Keth'var could process this impossibility, the space around his fleet erupted into chaos. The empty void suddenly blazed with light as concealed human vessels decloaked. Not cargo haulers, warships. Dozens of them. The Dauntless itself shimmered and revealed its true form. Not a battered freight hauler, but a heavily armored dreadnought bristling with weapons. What they had targeted was nothing more than a holographic projection. Greetings again, Admiral. Captain Chen's voice crackled across all frequencies. Allow me to introduce myself properly. Captain Sarah Chen, Commanding Officer of the Terran Defense Force Dreadnought Dauntless, and welcome to Operation Mousetrap. Keth'var's tactical display exploded with threat indicators. Human vessels surrounded his fleet, frigates, destroyers, cruisers, and something massive that defied classification. How had they hidden an entire battle group? Impossible, he snarled. Our sensors detected no other ships. That's the thing about humans, Admiral, Chen replied conversationally. We're really good at hiding, and we're even better at lying. The largest human vessel, a kilometer-long monster that registered as barely more than background radiation, powered up its weapons. The energy readings were off the charts. Admiral, his tactical officer's voice cracked with fear. That ship, its energy output is greater than our entire fleet combined. Keth'var felt cold dread creeping through his exoskeleton. What kind of weapons are those? Unknown, sir. The energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. Captain Chen's voice continued, almost cheerfully. See, the thing is, Admiral, we humans have this saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You Zephyrians have been hunting our cargo ships for months. Did you really think we wouldn't set a trap? The massive human dreadnought's main guns began to glow with an ominous blue light. Not plasma, something else entirely. Those aren't fusion weapons, Keth'var whispered, horrified recognition dawning. Those are antimatter cannons. Very good. Chen's voice carried genuine approval. Most species take much longer to figure that out, usually because they're dead. Antimatter weapons were theoretical nightmares to most civilizations. The engineering challenges were considered insurmountable. The containment requirements alone would tax even the most advanced societies. But humans, it seemed, had not only solved those problems but weaponized them. Admiral, his communications officer's voice trembled. They're broadcasting on all channels. Not just to us, to the entire sector. Put it through. Captain Chen's voice now carried the weight of absolute authority. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force to all Zephyrian vessels in this sector. You have attacked human civilian ships, killed human crews, and stolen human cargo. This stops now. Keth'var found his voice. You cannot threaten the entire Zephyrian Empire with one fleet. One fleet. Chen laughed, a sound that sent chills through the Zephyrian crew. Admiral, this isn't our main fleet. This is just Tuesday afternoon patrol. And you're absolutely right. We can't threaten your entire empire with one fleet. The pause that followed was pregnant with menace. That's why we brought friends. Space itself seemed to tear open as massive rifts appeared throughout the system. From these dimensional wounds emerged ships unlike anything in Keth'var's experience. Vessels that looked like they had been forged in the heart of a star and tempered in the cold of deep space. Confederation vessels dropping out of hyperspace. The tactical officer reported, his voice barely above a whisper. Altarian heavy cruisers. Centauri fast attack craft. Vegan deep space monitors. Admiral, there are over 200 ships out there. Keth'var stared in disbelief. The humans had somehow convinced multiple alien species to join them in this ambush. Species that had never cooperated before were flying in perfect formation alongside human vessels. How? He breathed. Captain Chen's voice carried a note of pride. Turns out, Admiral, when you start raiding trade routes, you don't just piss off humans. You piss off everyone who uses those routes. And humans, well, we're pretty good at making friends when we need to. An Altarian voice joined the communication. Deep, resonant, speaking in perfectly translated Zephyrian. Admiral Keth'var, I am Fleet Commander Thexani of the Altarian Republic. Your attacks on civilian vessels have been deemed acts of piracy under Galactic Commerce Code 4471. Surrender immediately. A third voice chimed in, this one the harmonic tones of a vegan collective consciousness. Zephyrian fleet, you are surrounded. We speak for the Merchant Coalition. Your predations end here. Keth'var's strategic mind raced. Even with quantum shields and plasma weapons, 12 ships against 200 was suicide. But the Zephyrian Empire did not bow to inferior species. All ships, prepare for battle, he commanded. We'll show these primitives the power of Zephyrian might. His fleet moved into defensive formation, shields powering up, weapons charging. They were outnumbered, but Zephyrian technology was superior. It had to be. The first salvo came from the human ships, not the antimatter weapons they'd threatened with, but conventional kinetic rounds. Keth'var almost laughed. Metal slugs against quantum shields? The projectiles struck his flagship's defenses and, passed right through. What? How are their primitive bullets penetrating our shields? Admiral, his chief engineer's voice was tight with panic. Those aren't normal kinetic rounds. They're phase-shifted. They're designed to slip through quantum barriers. The rounds tore into the Zephyrian hull, not exploding but releasing clouds of metallic particles that began adhering to every surface they touched. Nanites, the engineer screamed. They're using self-replicating nanites. Keth'var watched in horror as his beautiful, pristine ship began to crawl with microscopic machines that were systematically disabling his systems. Weapons went offline. Shields flickered and died. Life support began cycling down. Sir, the nanites are broadcasting. His communications officer reported. They're sending our tactical data to the human ships. Captain Chen's voice returned, now carrying a tone of grim satisfaction. You know what the real problem is, Admiral? You studied our cargo ships. You learned how to defeat civilian vessels with minimal defenses. But you never bothered to study our military. More human ships were decloaking now, not from behind stealth technology, but from inside asteroid fields, behind debris clouds, even tucked into the shadow of the system star. They had been there all along, waiting. You see, Chen continued, humans have been fighting wars for our entire existence. We know things about combat that most species never learn because they never need to. We know about deception, misdirection, and the fine art of making an enemy defeat themselves. Keth'var's fleet was falling apart around him. The nanites had spread to 3 more ships, and the Allied forces were moving in with precision that spoke of careful planning and extensive coordination. We also know, Chen's voice grew cold, how to hold a grudge. Admiral Keth'var's flagship shuddered as its primary systems failed one by one. Around him, his crew worked frantically to combat the nanite infestation, but it was like trying to fight the vacuum of space itself, an enemy that was everywhere and nowhere. Admiral, his second-in-command approached hesitantly. Perhaps we should consider surrender. Keth'var's mandibles clacked angrily. The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to primitives. With respect, sir, Captain Chen's voice came through their speakers with crystal clarity. We can hear everything you're saying. Your communications are completely compromised. The bridge fell silent except for the ominous hum of dying systems. Now, Admiral, let me educate you about something, Chen continued. You've been attacking our cargo ships for months, killing our crews, taking supplies meant for colony worlds, medicine, food, equipment that people need to survive. Images began appearing on Keth'var's screens, feeds from the human ships showing the faces of those crews that had been lost. Men, women, some barely more than children. You probably thought we were easy targets because our cargo ships don't fight back much, because we seem to value life over victory. Chen's voice grew quiet, dangerous. You mistook mercy for weakness. Another wave of human vessels decloaked, these ones different from the military ships. They moved with civilian registration codes but carried weaponry that made Keth'var's blood run cold. Those are merchant vessels, his tactical officer whispered in disbelief. They've armed their civilian ships. That's right, Chen confirmed. When you attack human civilians, you don't just make enemies of our military. You make enemies of our people. All of them. The merchant ships began broadcasting their own messages, names, cargo manifests, crew rosters. Ships that had been attacked by Zephyrian raiders. The dead demanding justice. Human psychology is a fascinating thing, Chen mused. We're tribal creatures. Attack one of us and you're attacking all of us. And we never, ever forget. Keth'var watched his tactical display with growing horror. His shields were completely down now, his weapons offline. But the humans weren't destroying his ships. They were capturing them intact, using some kind of boarding technology that his sensors couldn't even detect. How are they doing this? He demanded. Teleporter technology, Admiral. His chief engineer reported weakly. But not like anything we've seen. They're somehow bypassing our internal defenses entirely. Figures began materializing on Keth'var's bridge. Humans in powered armor that seemed to bend light around itself. But these weren't just soldiers. The leader removed her helmet, revealing an elderly woman with kind eyes and gray hair. "Admiral Keth'var," she said pleasantly. "I'm Dr. Elizabeth Hayes, xenobiologist and diplomat. I'm here to accept your surrender." "A scientist?" Keth'var sputtered. "You send a scientist to accept military surrender?" Dr. Hayes smiled. "Admiral, did you really think our military was our most dangerous asset?" She gestured to the human soldiers around her. "These fine people can certainly fight when needed, but our real weapon has always been our ability to understand our enemies better than they understand themselves." She approached his command chair with no apparent fear, despite being surrounded by armed Zephyrians. "We've been studying your species for months, Admiral. Your social structures, your psychology, your tactical doctrines. We know that Zephyrian commanders are conditioned to view retreat as personal dishonor, which is why you haven't tried to escape even though it's obviously hopeless." Keth'var's weapon's hand twitched toward his sidearm, but found it wasn't there anymore. When had they disarmed him? "We also know," Dr. Hayes continued conversationally, "that your empire operates on a strict hierarchy where failure is punished by exile or death, which means you're probably more afraid of going home empty-handed than you are of dying here." The accuracy of her assessment hit Keth'var like a physical blow. How could these primitives understand Zephyrian culture better than most Zephyrians? "Here's what's going to happen," Dr. Hayes said, settling into a chair that one of the soldiers had brought her. "You're going to surrender your fleet. Your crews will be treated with dignity and respect under the Terran rules of war. You personally will be given a choice." "What choice?" Keth'var found himself asking despite his intentions to remain silent. "You can return to your empire as a prisoner exchange, face whatever punishment they deem appropriate for your failure. Or," Dr. Hayes leaned forward, "you can help us understand why your people turned to piracy." Admiral Keth'var stared at the human scientist, his mind reeling. "You want to understand us?" "Admiral," Dr. Hayes said gently, "do you really think this was just about stopping piracy?" Around them, Keth'var could see his crew being escorted away by human soldiers who were treating them with surprising courtesy. No violence, no intimidation, just professional restraint. "Your raids weren't random," Dr. Hayes continued. "They followed a pattern. Specific trade routes, specific types of cargo. You were targeting medical supplies and agricultural equipment bound for frontier colonies. That suggests desperation, not greed." Keth'var's silence was answer enough. "We did our homework, Admiral. We know about the crop failures in the Zephyrian outer territories, the plague that's been sweeping through your mining colonies, your government's inability to provide adequate relief." The human woman's eyes held genuine compassion. "You weren't pirates by choice, were you? You were trying to save your people." For the first time in cycles, Keth'var felt something crack inside his rigid military composure. "Our colonies are dying," he whispered. "The Empire claims resources are being allocated, but nothing reaches the outer systems. My own clutch nest is among the affected worlds." Dr. Hayes nodded. "We thought so, which brings us to the real reason for this elaborate trap." "You mean this wasn't about capturing us?" "Oh, it was partly about that. But mostly, Admiral. This was a job interview." Keth'var's mandibles spread in confusion. "I don't understand." Captain Chen's voice came through the ship speakers. "Doctor, if you would do the honors?" Dr. Hayes smiled. "Admiral, the Terran Colonial Administration has a problem. We have more colonies than we can properly supply and protect. Meanwhile, you have a fleet of experienced officers and crews who know these space lanes better than anyone." She gestured to the tactical display, which now showed not battle formations but shipping routes and colony locations. "We propose a partnership. Your fleet joins the Terran Merchant Marine as an autonomous wing. You help protect the trade routes you once raided. In exchange, we share our medical technology and agricultural techniques with the affected Zephyrian worlds." Keth'var stared at her. "You would trust us? After what we've done?" "Admiral, any species clever enough to raid our shipping for months without being caught has skills we can use. Any commander honorable enough to try to save his people instead of enriching himself is someone we can work with." The tactical display shifted again, showing medical supply convoys and agricultural aid packages already being loaded onto human ships. The aid convoys are ready to depart as soon as you give the word, Dr. Hayes said quietly. No strings attached, no political demands. Just one spacefaring species helping another. Keth'var looked around his bridge, at his crew being treated with dignity, at the humans who had outfought and outmaneuvered him, offering not destruction but hope. Why? He asked. Why show mercy to those who showed you none? Dr. Hayes stood and moved to the viewport, gazing out at the assembled fleets, human and alien ships floating side by side in the darkness. Because, Admiral, the galaxy is a big, dangerous place, and there are threats out there that make our little conflict look like a playground squabble. The humans learned long ago that we're stronger together than apart. She turned back to him. Besides, we've read your military records. You're a good commander who made hard choices in an impossible situation. The galaxy needs good commanders. On the main screen, Captain Chen reappeared. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Altarian Republic. They're reporting unusual energy signatures from the galactic rim. Something big is coming, and it's not friendly. Dr. Hayes looked at Keth'var with raised eyebrows. What do you say, Admiral? Ready to help us find out what's really threatening our part of the galaxy. Keth'var looked at his officers, saw hope in their eyes for the first time in cycles. He thought of his dying colonies, of his people suffering while their government played politics with relief supplies. Dr. Hayes, he said finally, I accept your terms, but I have one condition. Name it. I want to be on the bridge when we face whatever's coming from the rim. My people have a saying, honor is earned in battle, but proven in the choices we make when the battle is over. Dr. Hayes smiled. Admiral, I think you're going to fit in just fine. As the joint fleet prepared to depart for Zephyrian space with relief supplies, Admiral Keth'var realized he had learned something profound about humans. They didn't just win battles through superior technology or tactics. They won by understanding that the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy wasn't antimatter or plasma or quantum physics. It was the ability to turn enemies into allies. The real war, he suspected, was just beginning. And for the first time in his military career, Admiral Keth'var was looking forward to fighting alongside humans rather than against them. Because if something truly dangerous was coming from the galactic rim, they would need every advantage they could get. And as he was rapidly learning, humans specialized in finding advantages where none seemed to exist. The Dauntless and her fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying hope to dying worlds and proving once again that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their stubborn refusal to let anyone fight alone.